Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Scuttlebutt Podcast. How you guys doing?
Good evening.
So,
I'm doing fine. We're here in North Carolina. Actually, it was 80 degrees today.
80 degrees, nice. It was a little warm today here in
Yes,
Tennessee,
it
Middle
was.
Tennessee.
It was like what, 60?
it
Maybe
was
58.
it was up there yesterday. It felt like it was like 80, but it was windy as
Yeah.
hell. But TSP, the Scuttlebutt, we sit down and we talk to our nation's hero, uh, myself and my co-host Chaps, and today we have COL Kittredge with us, Vietnam veteran. We're going to get into his story here real quick. But before we get started, I would like to thank our Patreon members and everybody that supports us. And, like I've been saying this all along, we're not here to profit off your war stories. So we take whatever money that we generate and we give back to our veteran community where we'll be sending veterans and first responders and some uh, other needy people. We're going to send them to sporting events. And I'm proud to say that I just purchased our very first set of tickets. We're sending
Woo!
a special needs young man to Chicago Cubs home opener. Um, that it's official. The tickets are secured. He is super excited to go to. He lives in Detroit, but I gave him the option. What if you had a game to go to for? He loves baseball, so if you had a game to go to for home opener, what game would you go to? And he picked Chicago Cubs. I said, all right, so our mission is to send you to a Cubs game.
Hey, Fleek,
Yes,
my
sir.
wife and I are going to Chicago in August. Do you mind if can I get some of those tickets too?
I'll see what I can do, buddy.
All right, good to go. Yeah, we'll
I'll
be
tell
there
you,
for the weekend.
you will. I got to set you up with Chief Paulie Freeman,
Well, yeah, I want to go to dinner with Paulie and his wife. What's his wife's name again?
Francine.
Francine Freeman. That's right.
Yes, yes, great people. I served in the mid '80s on the USS Carl Vinson with Chief Paul.
Hoorah!
He wasn't a chief back then, but he was a petty officer Freeman back then.
We want a special shout out to Connor Insurance Group. Thank you for your sponsorship, buddy.
Yes,
Jason Connor, if you have any insurance needs, go see him.
yeah, all the way around, like auto, home, uh, life, you name it, he does it. Go see him. He's here in Middle
Death.
Tennessee, but he
He
services
does
a
death
bunch of
insurance
states.
too.
Yeah, he does a bunch of states. So hey, so before we get started, how did Tyler J fundraiser go?
Dude, Brian Romans, I'm sorry, just like on Sunday, I had to blow Brian Romans up. They made $5,000 for Tyler.
Wow.
And the wall was out there. It was awesome. Sal was great. Tyler was there. He was hugging people. There's a Single Tree Barbecue gave him a check. It was just unreal. Brian Romans and Stop 22 and Romans Warrior Foundation, they totally outdid themselves, and that spurred more conversations because I'm trying to get Irreverent Warriors and Brian Romans Warrior Foundation to start helping each other out and maybe take
Heck
the
yeah.
wall to wherever the hikes are.
Oh
Which,
yeah, that's a great idea.
yeah, so I gave him the CEO's number, Cindy Fiera McNally, and hopefully he gets to use it. Oh, and by the way, Brian is also awesome because his wife just got me and my wife a 10-day cruise in December
Yeah,
and booked. It's booked, ready to go.
hell yeah. Where are you going out of?
We're going out of Miami. We're going to Antigua, St. Martin, St. John's, Barbados, Puerto Plata, Dominica, and that's it.
Nice. Speaking of cruises, I just got back 2 days
Yes,
ago.
you did. How was it? Was it
Oh, it was
awesome?
warm. It was 85 degrees. We saw dolphins. We saw a couple whales off the starboard side feeding. It was amazing.
Which side is that for our non-Navy
Starboard
people?
starboard side would be the right side.
Yes, it would. And
So
that means port is on the left.
yes. So it's
To my
funny.
non-Navy friends out there.
This very young couple get on the elevator with my wife and I, and she asked her husband or boyfriend, whoever it was, I think it's on the starboard side, but I don't know what side that is. So I was like, it's the right side. And she's like, I always forget. I say, hey, I was in the Navy, so some things are just burnt into your brain. I'll never forget. So it's definitely
Just
the
like
right time.
just like General Order number 6 for me. I can never forget that General Order. But without further ado, Fleek, do you want to introduce
Yes,
our
Mr.
guest?
COL Kittredge, our Vietnam veteran. How you doing today, buddy?
I am doing fine, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on.
Yes, it's
Good
our
evening, sir.
pleasure. It's definitely our pleasure. So, were you drafted or did you join voluntarily?
No, actually, I joined the Army in 1956.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I did it on my 17th birthday. Uh, and, you know, dropped out of school. I completed 10th grade, dropped out of school. I wasn't having any problems at school. I was having problems at home and stuff like that. So anyway, it didn't take much for my parents to take and go ahead and sign the statement saying that I could join the Army on my 17th birthday. So I did. Went to Fort Dix for basic training, and then right on to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where the 101st Airborne was just reorganizing after World War II. After World War II, the 101st got deactivated. But we were having the Cold War was starting to heat up, so we stood up the 101st, and I went there to you know act as a filler basically for one of the units there. And just as an aside, I know that everybody's heard of the Band of the Brothers.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
I was in the Band of Brothers.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Now,
Was it Easy Company?
no, 10 years later.
10 years later, yeah.
Yeah, I actually was assigned to Easy Company 506 Infantry.
Wow, that's pretty awesome, though.
Hoorah, sir.
All of our NCOs and most of the officers were World War II vets and Korean War vets. So, had a lot of respect for them. Had one master sergeant. Back in those days, also, E7 as high as you could go. In the ranks, they didn't have the first sergeant and the sergeant major. They still call them first sergeant, sergeant major, but it was still E7. But anyway, we had one E7 as platoon sergeant, and he had 7 jumps, seven
Wow.
combat jumps.
Holy
He did
crap.
all 5
Wow.
during World War II, and did 2 of them during Korea. So he was a survivor.
Amazing.
Jeez.
Yeah, a lot of respect for him. Anyway, a little more of my story. I stuck around there in the 101st for quite some time, and then Vietnam came along, and by that time I was a sergeant, and I had my GED. They said, how'd you like to go to OCS? I'm thinking, more money, right? And back in those days, you didn't make much money.
Right.
So I went to OCS, and I thought, right on to Vietnam, but no, they sent me to Fort Carson, Colorado, where again I thought that lieutenant, I'd probably be a platoon leader, maybe company XO, something like that. I got to the 5th Infantry Group, mechanized, at Fort Carson, and they sent me on down to 4th Squadron, 12th Cav. And I remember that Colonel Kimball was down there, and he said, I've been waiting for you. Get your ass down to C Troop. That guy down here only got 7 days left, and you're the new troop commander. So there I am. And that, it was sink or swim, and I guess I was able to swim all right. And then I decided to be an airborne and all that stuff. I wanted to get back into jumping out of airplanes. Well, and I'd heard about Special Forces, Green Beret. and so I applied, and be damned if they didn't take me. And they sent me to a year of Vietnamese language school, and then on to Fort Bragg to go to the what's called Q course, qualification course, and I passed all that, and there we go, off to Vietnam, and it all went uphill or downhill from there.
What years were you in Vietnam?
Okay, I was with Fifth Special Forces Group.
No.
All of my time in Vietnam was with Special Forces.
Oh,
I
what? No.
was there for close to 3 years.
3 years.
Okay.
I went 3 different times, and
Wow.
I was the first time around 68, 69. I was first of all they put you in in an airman unit type. I was in a B team out near the Cambodian border, but not on the border. And the B team takes care of 5 to 7 A teams. The A teams is where the rubber meets the road out on the border. And as soon as a command slot became available, team leader slot became available out on one of the teams, out I go. And I went to 415, which was Tuinan. And this was all down in Mekong Delta. I was in 4 Corps. And I was out there for 6, 7 months. Actually less than that. I was out there for about 5 months. And I was able to survive that. I wasn't getting along real well though with my counterpart. We had a Special Forces A team, which is 12 people, two officers, myself, and an XO at that time. I was organized, and then you had a team sergeant and intel sergeant, and then each one of your specialties, you had a heavy weapons guy and a light weapons guy, 2 medics, 2 commo folks, and then they made up the 12 people. Where our mission out there on the border was, we set up on at that time, we couldn't go into Cambodia. It had been an international incident going to Cambodia, but they were over there. We knew they were over there, and of course we had intel indicating they were there. So we set up ambush sites along the border, set up surveillance and all that stuff, and interdiction. I did that for 4 or 5 months, and I got a few stories along that line, but I won't get into them. But I wasn't getting along very well with my counterpart. And my counterpart, they had a Vietnamese Special Forces team there, and two reasons I wouldn't get along with him. Number one, he would never go outside the gate. And number two, I thought that he was skimming off the payroll of the indigenous folks that we were employing to be our civilian soldiers. We call the folks that work with us CIDG, Civilian Indigenous Defense Group, which is about the same as our National Guard. It was a way to get out of getting drafted into regular army, a regular ARVN, and also you got to stay right there in your hometown or in at least in the region. So, and some of them, if you get them up trained right, they were good soldiers. They were good soldiers. And talking about good soldiers, our most current war, the war we just completed, we always worried about somebody shooting you in the back and all that stuff. I never worried about that. Some people, I've heard the stories and all that stuff of kids and mama sons and all that stuff throwing grenades. I think there was a lot of embellishment myself. Maybe not, but I never. They trusted me with their life, and I trusted them with my life. And I did that for close to 3 years. And I personally didn't have a problem. But anyway, I wasn't getting along very well with my counterpart. But I developed a reputation for being halfway aggressive. I get to folks out on patrol, and in an adjacent camp, we had an American out there who was, you know, he was a captain, and he was in charge of the team out there. But for some reason or other, that team didn't seem to want to get outside the wire.
Hmm.
And back in that day, that was sort of a no-no. And so my boss, Lieutenant Colonel Hairline, uh, saw an opportunity to get me out of a bad situation before I either shot my counterpart or he shot me. And so he took the guy that wasn't doing too much outside at another camp and brought him back into the headquarters and made him the assistant to the assistant to the assistant, and brought me back in. And first of all, when he brought me back in, I thought I'd been relieved. He said, "Oh, no, that's not what happened." He says, "There's a problem out there at A414. He says, I want you to get out there and get it fixed." And he says, "And if you can't, I'll find somebody that can." So off we go. I go on out there, and yeah, there was a problem. We'd already, the commander had already left, and had a couple of other folks out there that soon followed him.
Yeah.
But we started getting the job done, and I had I would say, a pretty successful, winding up of that particular camp. And of course, I turned it over, in June. I think it was June, July of 1969. And unfortunately, the guy that I turned it over with, from Maine, he was
Same
from
place
Maine.
where you're
Yep.
from.
Louis Genesio from Maine. But 10 days after I turned it over to him, the Colonel Hairline's replacement came on out there, and hopped him onto a helicopter, and he had, and Colonel, as it turned out, it was Colonel Beck. Colonel Beck was Colonel Hairline's replacement. They were going out and they were going to recon an area, visually recon an area that they're going to have an operation on 2 or 3 days down the road. And I'll be damned if that helicopter didn't crash and killed everybody in the helicopter, including my replacement.
Oh my gosh.
And
that's terrible.
I think, if it had been 10 days earlier, it had been me, but it wasn't. And I, thank God every day after that. But I had a couple of things that I did during that year that I did a couple of things.
That's amazing, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry, Fleek. He just went away, and now he's back.
Can you hear me?
I came back to the States, and went to the we call it the advanced course or the career course for captains, and that was almost a year. And then after that, because I didn't have a college degree, if you had any potential at all back in those days, and you were within 2 years of getting a degree, they'd cut you loose, what they call a bootstrap. And they did that for me. And I went to University of Tampa and got a baccalaureate.
Oh man.
But one of the big problems is, after doing something like that, the Army's got you. The Army's got you now for.
They're not going to let you
You're
go.
obligated for a couple more years. So back to Vietnam again. And so I turned. I basically went from Vietnam to basically schooling for 2 years, and then back to Vietnam in 1971. And by that time we were downsizing.
Yep.
We'd already decided that we got turned over to Vietnamese, and Special Forces by that time had left, but there were a few of us still there. We were still wearing berets. We were still getting jump pay, and we were doing things. And one of the things that I got involved with was training Cambodians. We'd bring a battalion of Cambodians in from Cambodia, and they basically just have the BBDs and no weapons, no nothing. And 16 weeks later, we'd put them through basic training and advanced training, taking them and we're giving them a double basic load of ammunition, put them on an airplane, and back to Cambodia to fight their war back here. And I did that for 7 or 8 months. And then another big thing that happened was they had what they call the Easter Offensive. And the Easter Offensive was in 1972, I believe it was. Yeah, in April of 72 or March, April 72, the NBA decided that we wasn't negotiating fast enough to get out of there, so they crashed across the border up at the DMZ, and they pushed the ARVN all the way off the DMZ, pushed them back about 45 miles down past the city of Hue. I'd heard just a little bit about that, but didn't think too much of it because I had a job training the Cambodians. But then we get this message, radio message saying, Captain Kittredge and another lieutenant and a sergeant, get on a truck and come to Benoit. And we're going to form. We didn't know where we were going. He said, "Bring all your combat gear and off you go." So we did, and we got there, and they briefed us and said, "Hey, you had this big deal up on the DMZ. The ARVN been pushed back. We've consolidated everything now. We've got the MBA kind of stopped and everything, but there were 2 infantry divisions and 1 tank division, a tank regiment that had been decimated." For all practical purposes, combat ineffective. And so we're going to form mobile training teams and go on back up there and get them retrained and put them back in the fight. Well, I was an armor officer, and the folks that they collected 8 or 9 other NCOs and 2 officers that could tell the difference between a tank and a Jeep. And that's about all. None of us, we all wanted. We were in special forces. We didn't. Tell you the truth, the reason I like special forces because I hated goddamn tanks because too much maintenance on them all the time. Too much maintenance. But so they said, 2 days from now, there's going to be a C-130 is going to land out here on the airstrip in Benoit, and you're going to hop on. And you're going to Hue Phubai, which is just a little bit south of Hue. And you, Captain Kittredge, are going to be in charge of the mobile training team, retraining the 20th ARVN Tank Regiment. Well, I said, okay, hey, what the hell are we going to do? But anyway, get up there, and they got us billeted they billeted my particular team in an old MACV compound, and the infantry guys went off and they billeted him someplace else over near where the 2 infantry divisions were. Well, then the next day I met my counterpart, the 20th Tank Regiment, and he spoke real good English. He was a lieutenant colonel, and but he'd been to the States and all that stuff, so he spoke pretty good English. But he said, "We got a problem." And basically said, "We got a problem." He says, "I have only about 100 people. You're supposed to have 300. I only have 4 tanks. You're supposed to have 54. Wow. They lost 50 tanks in a month of fighting on the DMZ.
Whoa.
And then I got with a MACV representative for equipment and stuff. And he said, there are no extra tanks in country that are not being utilized. We got to bring them in one at a time from the States. So it was obvious that we're going to have a problem. Number one, we got to get equipment. And number two, we got to get some people. Well, the lieutenant colonel, the Arvin regimental commander, said, "Some of my people are coming back. We didn't. They didn't get killed. About half of them were killed. The other half had basically kind of deserted, but they were coming back." So I put my head together along with him and my NCOs, and we came up with a rudimentary refresher training for the tankers. We're going to, for new people, obviously, this is a tank, but there's going to be driver training, gunnery, and the like, and maintenance. We did that for one company at a time, and got them back in the fight. One thing that, a couple of things that stick out of my mind in that particular thing was that in the driver's training, we got one amateur driver in the tank, and then the other half a dozen drivers that are going to take their turn at the tank, got them hanging on the bustle of the rear. So, and I'll be damned if this one time this amateur driver put in reverse.
Oh shit!
And right behind him is a barracks, an old wooden barracks like you have some in here in the States. And the more they holler at him, the faster he can push the gas. Everybody jumped off except one person, one soldier, one unfortunate soldier. Squashed him like a bug.
Oh Lord!
Yeah, and I remember, I wasn't there when it happened, but hey, come on, Dad, you got to go see this. I did. The building was flat, and everybody was gathered around this soldier who he wearing a steel pot, and his steel pot was mashed just like that.
Oh man!
It was mashed together, and there's some things you don't ever forget. And I'll never forget that. His brains are coming out of his nose and all that stuff.
How do you call his mom and tell her that news?
Yeah, and the other thing I remember is that one of the companies that we sent back to the fight, we sent a couple of our NCOs with them, and they got into a serious fight that night, and we shot up and captured two T-37 tanks. Big deal, because up until that point, we couldn't prove that the Russians or anybody were helping the North Vietnamese. Well, we brought that tank brought those two tanks back to the headquarters, the headquarters area, and got a lowboy and everything, and took one of them down to Saigon to show for his propaganda value, and also for his intel value. And I remember that. The other major thing that I probably remember is I was there at the end of the war. When we had the peace, I call it peace with dishonor. They call it peace with honor, but we had peace with dishonor, I call it, because we had 60 days to turn it all over to the Arvin. And being special forces, and everybody had been leaving, we had accumulated a lot of equipment off the books. Some of it we just appropriated, some we quite literally stole from.
Well, of course, you're special forces. That's what you guys do.
Yeah, that's what special forces does. Exactly right. But
no. You didn't steal. You tactically acquired.
Yeah, we appropriated it and used it for a better source.
That is unreal, man. Wow.
Yeah. But we had four Jeeps on the books. We had 34 Jeeps in our little headquarters.
Nice.
Everybody had a Jeep and everybody had a driver. But the stuff that was official, obviously, we had to officially turn it over. The other stuff, the Arvin, they were happy to get it. And I have no idea. Probably it went someplace. To the point also that I had personally, I am issued M16. I had an issued 45, but I also had accumulated a 38, and I had accumulated a little 25 automatic, and I had accumulated a car 15, which is, now we call it the M4, I guess, but it was the forerunner of the M4. But
Yeah.
so I officially turned in all my other stuff, and I gave the other stuff to people that I gave it to Arvin that that I kind of liked. So
Did you bring any home?
yeah, well, who the hell knows? Maybe it ended up being in VC hands. I don't know,
Right.
but uh, I went to Hick was in Benoit, and at about 30-day mark, we've totally zeroed everything out there, and that was a fiasco, because what do you do with all the people that are so loyal to you, that they're your former your interpreters, your drivers, your clerks and jerks, and even the housekeepers? What do you do with all those folks? They've been working with the Army for 10 years. We just gave them their month's pay and a double month's pay and said, leave. That's not good. I felt sorry for him. I really felt bad for him.
Right.
But then I went to Saigon and went to MACV headquarters, where I had to do the write the after action report for the training of the Cambodians and for the mobile training teams. I was, for lack of a better word, I was kind of a fair-haired boy for the outfit there for a while. I'd been around enough, and anyway, I could do a couple of things. So I stuck around till the end and did the after action report and things like that. And of course, when I left, they it was time for awards and all that stuff, and I was supposed to get a Legion of Merit, and captains don't get Legion of Merit. And so fortunately, I had a colonel that I worked for who said, well, I'll fix that. So I'll be a SOB if I didn't get 3 bronze stars all at the same ceremony. He broke it up into different. He broke it up into different segments of my that particular tour, for the mobile training teams, the training of the Cambodians, and then the turning over of all the stuff to the Army.
Wow.
And anyway, it worked out.
Well, sir, I just want to say, welcome back and welcome home.
Yeah, and before you guys start, I did ended up writing a GD book, and I did that fairly recently, and here I'm kind of proud of it, because high school dropout, and I'm actually wrote a book.
I'd love to read that.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to buy it.
And I think you can get it on Amazon, and when it was on Amazon, actually for the first week, it was on bestseller list. Obviously, it's not now, but I still get a check every month, so somebody's buying it, and it's a bunch of short stories. I call it my bathroom book, because it's I think 22 short stories. They're sort of interconnected, but not. They'll all stand alone. But it's different things that I did and saw, or that I was associated with while I was here, and that's my story.
Yep, there it is. Yeah, I just pulled it up. It's going on my Kindle tonight, sir.
Yeah. If you're a Kindle, you can actually get it for free. I think if you got a Kindle account, you can read it for free. If you got Yeah. If you don't have a Kindle account, then you can get the electronic version, I think, for
Okay.
$4 or $5. If you
Yeah.
want the hard copy, it's I think $12.95, something like that.
It
I get
is.
a whole
Yes, it
$4
is.
out of that
Yes, you are
12.95.
right. It is $12.95.
Yeah.
Paperback. And Kindle, yes, Kindle, it's $0 if you have an account, which I have to, after this podcast, I have to go in and get into my Kindle account to get it for free. But I'm looking very forward to reading this. Wow.
How was your when you came home? How was your welcome home? Did you get any of the negative feedback from your fellow Americans?
Yes and no. You know, during the first time around, I remember going out to going to San Francisco, and then having to catch a bus up to Travis Air Force Base. And I remember seeing the hippies and stuff like that. This had been during '68 time frame. I remember seeing the hippies, and I thought, "Damn, that's a good-looking gal there. What's she doing out here with that damn sign?" I saw that, and it wasn't that bad during the '68, '69 time frame. The anti-war stuff was just gearing up. But I do remember coming home and going back to my little hometown in New England. And they would say, "Hey kid, where you been? I haven't seen you in a while." I said, "Well, 3 days ago I was in Vietnam." "You goddamn fool! Couldn't you get out of it?"
How do you get out of it?
Yeah, and
That's New England talk right there.
Yeah.
and I do remember I had a small high school class, but I remember even out of some of my classmates that their families, pull some shenanigans to get them a legitimate deferment.
Yeah.
So it was starting to happen back in. But I look at it this way: I volunteered to go, and I volunteered to go second time, and I volunteered to go third time.
Yeah. I have a message for our fellow Americans. If you oppose the war, go to the Capitol. Don't talk to us about it. We're not there because we want to be there. Go to the Capitol. Talk to the politicians. They're the ones that are putting these men and women in harm's way, not us. We're not going over there on our own free will. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, and I do remember the second time around when I came back. They used to time our coming back so that we had to land after midnight on the West Coast, so it made it inconvenient for the protesters. And then the last time in 1973, they told us that we had to get into civilian clothes to get for the rest of the ride home.
I've heard stories like that before.
And then that was when we try and figure out what to do with the Army. The Army, we'd had some incidents and all that stuff, but we wasn't loved. I can tell you that. I mean, I'm now involved in a lot of wounded warrior stuff. But
Awesome.
and God bless them for they did their thing, and I sort of said, because of my getting involved, I said, I'm going to make sure, I remember how we were treated, and I'm going to make sure that the current crop of veterans don't get treated the same way.
Amen.
Right, for sure.
So there's that. So yeah, I still remember how we were treated, but it is what it is, and here we are now.
Yep.
And you're doing good things.
Definitely. When I was the commander of my American Legion post back home, probably 10, 15 years ago, and it was like, the Iraq war was in full fledged. Every time one of our members came home, I always made sure I had a party for them at the post. I always wanted to make sure that they felt like they were welcome home and give them the proper respect that they deserve. I mean, these guys are putting now men and women. I don't mean to slight the women, but in my day it was all men. So I don't say that.
Not in my day. Not in my day.
point is, you welcome these guys, men and women, home and give them their due. It's
On the
hard.
beer.
It's a hard life.
Dude, I got a great party when I came back, and I
Oh, yeah.
was Naples, Florida, and I was hammered. So thank you, Naples, Florida, for the welcome.
Hey, Al, were you married at the time when you're in Vietnam?
Yes, and unfortunately, that was one of the casualties of the war. Also, it was a army life or military life is tough no matter what,
Yeah.
and certainly the uncertainty of war and all that stuff doesn't help anything. Um, I do remember during the active Vietnam era that we moved. We moved I think 7 times in that many years.
Wow.
And of course that was the other big problem too. When we didn't go as units, we went as individual replacements. So when you get on orders to Vietnam, your wife and family was basically cut loose and expected to go home, go back
Right.
wherever hometown was, and nobody ever checked on them. There was no family support units or anything like they have today. I mean, today a battalion commander get relieved if he doesn't take care of his soldiers and doesn't take care of the wives and the kids back home. Uh, you know, Although I live here in the Fort Bragg community, and I still hear soldiers and wives and all that stuff, bitching that they're not being taken care of. But at least there is a system set up to do that today. And a sergeant major or a company commander or a battalion commander who's not taking care of his soldiers is not going to last very long.
Yeah.
You're in North Carolina, right? You said Fort Bragg area?
Yeah, I am at. I live right outside of Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Okay.
I live in. We call it Vietnam, but it's now
Vietnam.
Fayetteville.
That's right. Vietnam.
Fayetteville. Everybody called it Vietnam because during the Vietnam era, the downtown Fayetteville looked like a little Saigon.
Well, good news. I will be coming your way in April. I'm going to Camp Lejeune to go see, the sites. So I'm excited. Maybe I can stop by and say hi to you.
You should, because I'll tell you why you should. Among other things, I'd be glad to host you. But number two, we have in downtown Fayetteville, it's an Army installation, but we have a world class airborne and special operations museum.
Oh,
It
cool.
is world class. I mean, it'll if you're into airborne special operations, it goes from Colonel Billy Lee, the first guy that jumped out of an airplane with the military, all the way up to today's special operations folks.
Yeah.
So yes, and you need to, if you do and go visit the museum, you need to plan on spending at least 4 hours or more there.
All right. Well, I'll be. Hey,
It takes a long
I'll get
time
your
to
address
read
from
it all
Fleet.
and listen to all little podcasts and things like that.
I'll be
yeah.
there.
So when you walk in the door, Al, do they yell "make a hole"?
No, but yeah,
That's a Navy thing, man. Come on.
All right, get the hell out of the way.
Another thing,
Army
Fort
doesn't
Bragg used
say
to
that.
be an open post, and then 9/11. And I remember General Jack Keane. You see him on Fox News a lot now as an analyst. But General Jack Keane, he was a 3-star at the time here. He said, if I had my way, he said, I'd close this place down. I'd close the post down. He said, well, we got this major highway going right through it. And everybody laughed, you can't do that. He said, because you got the major highway. Plus, it would cost too much to put a fence around that whole thing. Well, 9/11 came by, and umpteen $1 million later, we got a fence around this whole thing now. And we got guards, and unless you're affiliated with the military, retired or active, you ain't getting on post.
Oh.
I will. I got my special ID. I'll get on
Yeah,
post.
well, then you can get on post.
I'll get on
But,
post.
but I can go through any gate. You have to go through a certain
No,
special
of
gate.
course, no, of course, of course, of course. I'm just a little corporal
Make way.
in the Marines.
What rank did you get out as, Al?
I came out as a lieutenant colonel.
Hoorah,
Uh,
sir.
Yeah,
Yeah,
congratulations.
I started out as a buck-ass private. Went up through the ranks
Wow.
to sergeant,
Lieutenant Colonel.
and
Damn.
high school GED, and got a baccalaureate. And then when I went to Command General Staff College, I
You
got a master's degree there. Got a couple of
Nice.
other certifications, and when I retired, and I actually started working for a college, and they ended up calling me professor.
Which one?
Nice.
Which college?
Webster University.
Webster.
University
Oh, yeah.
is out of St. Louis. It's a real university.
Yeah,
I've
I've
been
heard
there.
of it.
It's but they, like a lot of other colleges, saw money to be made with the military. So they said they put a campus, satellite campus at here at Fort Bragg.
Wow.
And I was, I started out as an adjunct professor, and then a couple of guys quit, and before I got all done, I was the chairman of the committee, chairman
Wow.
of the particular curriculum.
You've done so much in your life. That's amazing.
That's impressive.
I'm impressed.
Yes.
I don't know, Fleek, are you impressed? I'm impressed.
Yeah. Private to lieutenant colonel.
Yeah, that doesn't
Crazy.
happen. That definitely doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. Well, the Army was good to me. I mean, obviously, 10th grade education, and a smart ass at that. The Army settled me down, and I was good at the Army too, but the Army was good to me. But you had to seek out opportunities. You couldn't just roll with a bunches. You had to seek out opportunities.
Yeah. I think our very first Vietnam veteran was Uncle Si. You know who he is?
No.
Duck
Uncle Si
Dynasty.
from Duck Dynasty. Guys with the
He-
beards.
He was first sergeant, right? In the
I think he
Army.
was a first sergeant. Yeah.
Or yeah, he was either sergeant. No, first sergeant. Yeah, he was a first sergeant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not too
yeah,
long
that was my
ago,
first
you
one.
had a friend of mine on, and that's how I happen to be here today.
Who?
Terry McIntosh.
Terry. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Terry, and he's written several books and a couple of military related, but he could also get involved in doing documentaries and things like that. As it turned out, Terry started out as my radio operator in Vietnam.
No.
Yeah. Yep.
We hey,
Yeah.
Al, we had
And
another.
Terry went on to bigger and better things. He got out right after Vietnam, but he went on to bigger and better things. And
How'd you get hooked back up with him after you retired?
well, we have answering machines on our telephones. One day, my telephone is blink, 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 and he said, "Hey, Captain K, this is Terry, your radio operator." Terry, who? I had no idea who the hell Terry was. But anyway, call me back. I'm doing something. He says, I need to talk to you about something. So I called him back, and we got talking. Oh, okay, yeah, I do remember. And certainly I remember where we were at. It was at the 2nd Special Forces Camp, 414. He said, I am doing a documentary about an incident that took place there. And what do you remember about it? And I was heavily involved in it. So he said, I'd like to interview you. He says, would you? I said, well, come on down to Fort Bragg. He lived in Kentucky. Come on down to Fort Bragg, bring your wife, and we'll have you for dinner, and we'll talk and figure out what's going on. So we did, and they did. He, focused in on this particular incident. What do you remember about it? And I told him what I remembered, and some of the asides and stuff like that. he said, "I'd like to put you on camera." And I said, "Okay." And God, him and his wife sprung into action. They
Wow.
they would back out to their car. They had a van, I think it was, and they had all sorts of camera equipment and backgrounds and lights and all that stuff. And they set up my living room so it looked like a damn movie studio with all sorts of background lights and everything. And then he asked pertinent questions, and I answered, and I told him, and we went over it 3, 4 times. And of course, um, and then he went around to other team members that were still alive and did the same thing with them. And then he put together a very good documentary. I think it's a 58-minute documentary.
Wow.
And he sold it to a couple of different TV channels. And then after there wasn't any money to be made in it anymore, he released it to YouTube, and it's for free on YouTube now. You can pull it off YouTube. Uh, and I see you getting ready to write. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to YouTube and put Terry McIntosh, or here's a title, Double Agent Down.
Oh yes.
The
Now I
Green Beret
remember.
Affair.
Yes. Okay.
That's free. You don't have to pay a dime for it. And he did a real good job putting it together.
Oh, the Green Beret. Yes.
And you'll
Yes.
see an old man there, and that's me.
I see the old man.
You see a couple
Yeah.
of old men there.
Now
but,
I
I'm one
remember
of them.
that interview. It was like a
It was not
Pegasus.
that long ago.
It was Operation
Yeah, Operation Gamma.
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 That's right. Operation Gamma. Yes.
Operation
That's
Gamma.
right.
Yeah, and that's a true story. That is a true story. And
Wow.
if I hadn't been leaving at the time I did, I sometimes wonder if I might not have joined those folks in a Long Been jail, but I didn't.
Oh, there you are.
Terry and I both left right at the right time,
Captain
because
Al Kittredge.
about 10 days.
Team
About
command.
10 days. The incident had already taken place when we were clearing, but. It's a true story, and it blew through the White House. It blew through the CIA, blew through the FBI, all the newspapers, and it just added fuel to the fire for the anti-war protests.
Oh,
And when it got all done, President Nixon declined. He ticked off General Abrams and declined to prosecute. There you go, right there, exactly.
Yeah. I'm watching that too right now, Fleek.
yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
It's
to
got
watch
some
it
good music here too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Definitely. We've got a lot of homework to do tonight.
There
Yes,
you
sir.
go. Yeah, but that's a God honest true story. And Terry actually wrote another book after that. I'm plugging Terry's books, but
Yeah.
he wrote another book which he asked me if he could use my name in it. And I said, "You sure you want to do this?" Because I said, one thing I found out, being senior military officer, is that there's no statute of limitations on war crimes.
Oh, there's not.
Yeah. And so
No.
anyway, I said, "Are you sure you want to take and write this story?" And he said, "Well, we're going to bill it as historical fiction." So he wrote it, and he sent me the draft and everything, and I gave him a couple of counseling things on it, and he ended up publishing it, and I would I'm not going to tell you what's fiction and what's not.
Wow.
Because but I still say to Terry and his wife Susan, I said, one of these days the CIA or the FBI might come knocking on our door.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. If they do now, I guess for me, why they could take them. Yeah, I'm 84, almost 84 years old. So
wait, you're 84? You don't look 84 at all,
yeah.
sir. You look
Well,
good.
I got a better one than that. You know where I'm gonna I've told this to Richard already.
Yep.
But
I was just about
I
to
am
ask about
going
this.
to celebrate my 84th birthday on a shooting safari in Africa.
No, when? When are you going?
I'm going to Namibia,
Namibia.
which
When?
is, I think it used to be Rhodesia back when it,
Yeah.
yeah. But
What?
it butts right up against Botswana and South Africa.
When are
But
you going?
I'm going over there is during their winter time because it's
Okay.
south of the equator. I'm going in June, and I'm going to celebrate my 84th birthday out on safari.
Oh, that's
it's,
awesome.
like I say, not a camera safari. This is a shooting safari.
Wow. Good luck.
Yeah. Well,
I hope you shoot a lion. Bring it back.
yeah. Hey, I'm not. I'm going to shoot some. I'm going to shoot. I'm going to shoot 16 animals.
16.
Okay. Awesome.
And it's going to be the plains animals, the ones that there's too many of. In fact, I'm going on what they call a culling hunt.
A culling,
I'm
a
gonna
culling
cull
safari.
the
Yeah,
animals, no trophies. I already told the guy that I don't have any room to put anything in my house or anything like that, and I don't have a desire to anyway. I'm big time hunter. I'm big time deer hunter, stuff like that. But and I love antlers just like everybody else does. If you look right over my shoulder, you'll
I can see it.
see some there. But I have no room for any more.
So,
Hey, could you bring me back a lion's tooth or a
a
claw?
lion's tooth.
I might be able to get a tooth. I probably off one of the natives. I could probably buy a tooth.
Right.
Yes.
Hey,
And get Fleek something too for his efforts.
yeah. Since you're special forces, I suspect that you're only going to take 16 bullets with you, right?
I'm a halfway decent shot.
He's humble.
Probably
only Force is humble guy.
For this particular safari, you do not. Don't have to. They rent you the gun. Rent you the gun, and $5 a shot. So yeah, 16 bullets. That's all I can shoot because it's $5 a shot. That's
Yeah.
$5 a shot. Dang.
But
Expensive ammo.
today, with the price of ammunition, that's about what it costs today to shoot a dang.
That's right. Yeah.
Deer.
Wow.
What's
Well,
the third
hey,
world country,
bon
man?
voyage. Have a great trip. You definitely deserve it, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we'll be looking for some pictures.
Yeah, definitely.
And every night we're going to come back to the hacienda or whatever. This particular hunt is out of a big sheep ranch, and a sheep ranch is a couple 100,000 acres. So every night we're going to come back to the headquarters here, and I'm told that they have Wi-Fi and stuff there. And if they do, I will do a little blog and stuff like that as you go along.
Well, Al, I just added you as a friend on Facebook, so
Yeah, I will do that too as soon as I'm done with my phone.
Okay.
Fleek can't multitask like I did, but it's okay. It's cool.
Well, my camera blanked out in mid conversation here, so I had to switch. I'm using my cell phone as a camera right now.
Oh, that's cool. You know what? The one in the corner, that was a really good look. I like that.
Over in the corner when it was over
Over
here.
in the corner. Yeah. That's pretty cool, man.
Very stoic.
It's very, very. Oh, he said it. He said stoic. Look at that.
Gotcha.
He said stoic. Man, I just had a huge conversation with somebody about stoicism today, and it just blew my mind, man. It was awesome.
Right on.
Yeah, but I will see you in North Carolina, sir. Probably
Okay,
April.
that'd be great. I would be glad to have you by for some venison steak, a glass of wine or a beer, and I'll usher you on down to the Special Operations Museum, and we'll go through the museum. I do that lots of times.
Well, good thing I'm retired, and so I can go because I'm going to a hike in Jacksonville, but I'm going to stop and I'm going to stay and I'm going to get a hotel and I'm going to hang out with you and eat and go see the museum. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. coordinate with me and everything. I've got a guest room.
Yes, sir.
Oh, wow. Look at
Yeah, look at that. I get hooked up on the road.
Yeah, you got hooked up. Yeah.
that.
Send it, sir. Send it. Like my T-shirt.
There
Send
you
it.
go. Yep. Yep.
Hey, Al, every once in a while when you smile, you look like George W., by the way.
You do.
Anybody,
That's
anybody
enough.
ever tell you
Yeah.
that?
He looks like my uncle and George W. Bush.
Oh, well, I appreciate you coming on with us, and I want to thank you for your service and welcome home and all your brothers that you served with. My heart goes out to all those guys. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, Al.
Well,
I get. Oh, sorry.
before you sign off, every Vietnam vet has got their story. The trouble is,
Yeah. Mhm.
we're all old now, and
Yeah.
all those stories are going to people's graves. If I can write
Yeah.
my story, anybody can. Don't have to publish it. Write it down so your kids will have it at least.
Yep, that's why I love doing this. So the reason why I started doing this years ago, when I still lived up in Detroit, I live in Middle Tennessee now, but I got my start in the American Legion, and I would sit at the bar and I was talking to this older gentleman, and he was talking about shooting the locks off a gate, and it turns out he was talking about Auschwitz, and I'm just like, oh my god! And every older person had a great story. I'm just like, man, somebody needs to write these stories down. This is amazing.
Yes.
And so when I moved to Middle Tennessee, it was still on my brain. Like I have to do something with these stories. So when I met Andrew here, Combat Chaps, I asked him if he would start a podcast with me, and he loved it. And we've been doing it for a year and a half,
Almost 2 years.
almost 2 years. And we're
but
award
Al-
winning now. We actually won a national award.
We did. Al, I have a favor to ask of you, actually, before we sign off. Up here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, on March 29th is the Vietnam Veterans Celebration.
Oh,
Vietnam
boy.
veterans, they have a day, and you guys.
When is it again?
March 29th. That is the Vietnam Veterans Day.
Right.
It is codified in law now, and we are celebrating our Vietnam veterans in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And I just sent you the flyer via your Facebook Messenger, and it starts at 11 o'clock. We're giving lunch, and there's going to be some speakers, and we're there to celebrate our Vietnam veterans. And it would be an honor if you could come. I just took work off. I mean, I am part-time lifeguard, so I did have to lifeguard that day. I just said, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm doing this instead. And we're going to be out there, and we'd love for you to come.
I will look into it.
Okay.
I'll have to figure out what's going on in my life during that
Yes,
time
sir.
frame. But yeah,
Between the two of us, we could probably find
pretty
a room
active,
for you.
still. I'm a big deal into stuff for the veterans. I also am on a board of patient advocacy board out to the military hospital.
Okay.
And I just took on a new gig. I'm a volunteer with a hospice unit for over the Veterans Association, Veterans
Awesome.
Hospital. So
That's awesome.
I keep my finger in it. And plus, I try to do a little hunting and fishing myself too.
Yes. Still serving. I love it.
Love it.
Well, if you happen to have that time off and you can make it,
Yeah, that would
between
be
the
great
two of
to
us,
do.
I'm pretty sure we could find a spare room for you.
I have 4 in my house.
I will look into it, and
and Fleek has like 3 or 4 in his house.
If I don't have a conflict on some other date.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to offer it to you because we are doing something for our Vietnam veterans.
Yeah.
I mean, my uncle was a Vietnam vet. My dad was Vietnam Arab. He was stationed in Whidbey Island. He was Navy. My uncle was Army.
Yeah.
But I give a lot of props to we both give a lot of props to our Vietnam veterans.
Definitely.
Well, we here in the Fayetteville area, they had a welcome home Vietnam vets maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay.
It was on the 50th anniversary, I think, of something. And they asked for stories and stuff like that. And I got together with a point of contact. And they interviewed me, and the thing I got real excited about was that I had about 300 or 400 pictures.
Nice.
And they took and I gave them all my pictures, and they put them into a loop, and then and I was one of 5 people that ended up being selected to tell their story, and, and my and they took some of my better pictures and blew them up and put big frames around them and all that stuff, and hung them on up in the museum, things like that. And one of the things that I like to laugh about is that my wife and I went down to where the museum, where they were displaying all these professionally framed photographs, and I walked on through, and they had this little 16-year-old girl down there. She was been a tour guide that day, and she taking us around, and she says, and this, she looked at me, and she looked at the picture, and she looked at me again. She looked at the picture. Says, oh my God, that's you. Yep.
That's awesome.
But at the end of that particular month, they gave all those photographs to us. They couldn't keep them. So here's a pathetic part. I've got about 35 professionally framed Vietnam photographs. The big blow-ups. I got them up in my attic.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go. If I come, I'm going to bring those photographs.
okay. That would be,
If-
oh my gosh, that would be amazing, sir.
If you all got a museum up there, I'd donate a couple of them.
You know what? It's funny that you just mentioned that, sir, because I just got a call last week about a guy. He's about 80 years old, and he wants to start a museum here in Murfreesboro, a veterans museum. And he's actually going to come and talk to our VFW on March 16th about putting a museum, a military museum, in Murfreesboro, which I think is very, very cool.
Yeah, like say, if we don't do something, it's all going to be lost.
Yeah, and this is why Fleek is recording your story and recording the stories of all the people that we talk to. And it's just we need to record these stories that they're going to be lost.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why I did my book, because as long as there's a Library of Congress, I'm in there now.
Yes, sir. That's
Yep.
true. That's a true statement. That's valid.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Fleek, you good?
I'm good, man.
Okay. Al,
Right.
thank you so much. We'll be talking very soon, sir.
Hey, Al,
Sounds good. Thank you,
do me-
guys.
do me a favor. Hang out for a second. I want to make sure that all your data downloads. So I'm going to hit end record now.
Bye, guys.
Hold on.